World War II came with its own pressures and demands, which pushed nations to think faster and more creatively. It was this pressure that led senior US military officials at the time to look for a lightweight, all-terrain, quick-response reconnaissance vehicle. They needed something that could move troops, carry radios, haul weapons, and even pull anti-tank guns. It had to go anywhere, do anything, and survive it. This demand led to the development of the Willys MB, popularly known as the Jeep. I can confidently say the Jeep wasn't just a vehicle, it was a canvas for unimaginable innovations. From flying through the skies to swimming in rivers, from riding railway tracks to belching fire, the humble Willys MB was transformed in ways no one could have imagined. Today, we look at 5 of the craziest Jeep modifications. The first insane Jeep modification in our video is the Airborne Jeep, or as some call it, parachuting power on wheels. This Jeep had its windshield folded down, canvas top, tools, and even bumpers removed to reduce weight. It turned the Jeep into an airborne cavalry horse, delivered from the sky to break through enemy lines. Nicknamed the Airborne Jeep, it was proof that American engineers were thinking far beyond the ground. These Jeeps were primarily delivered by military gliders like the WWII for A, though in rare cases, they were parachute-dropped. Either way, they were ready to hit the ground running. Such modified Jeeps were crucial for paratroopers, who were often dropped deep behind enemy lines without support vehicles. They needed transport immediately upon landing to move supplies, weapons, and the wounded, and to coordinate fast attacks. A flying Jeep might sound absurd, but in World War II, it was a tactical advantage. The second craziest Jeep modification gave birth to the Amphibious Jeep, whose official name was the Ford GPA. In 1942, engineers at Ford were told, make a Jeep that floats. And they did. The result? The Seep or Ford GPA. The Seep had a watertight hull, a rear propeller, rudder, and a bilge pump. It looked like a Jeep trying to cosplay as a boat. This was a response to a wild demand from the Allies, who needed a vehicle that could cross rivers, lagoons, and shallow waters without a bridge. The idea made sense in places like Sicily, France, and the Pacific Islands, regions that required vehicles which didn't stop when they hit water. The GPA performed well in calm rivers but was heavy and unstable in rough seas. Still, it crossed rivers that Allied trucks couldn't. Though production ended in 1943 after 12,778 units, it was ahead of its time, and the Soviets praised its river-crossing abilities. The Rail Jeep. Imagine it's 1943, and Burma's roads are mud, but the railway tracks are still intact. Such situations could force any military engineer to look to the surroundings for solutions. Engineers removed the tires and fitted steel railway wheels. They adjusted the suspension and, in some cases, added light rail carts. They carried engineers for track repair, delivered supplies, patrolled for mines, and even evacuated the wounded where no trucks could reach. It wasn't glamorous, but it turned the Jeep into a rolling lifeline across war-torn infrastructure. The mine-detecting Jeep is the 4th craziest modification we'll look at. This modification turned the Jeep into a death-sniffing tool. I get the feeling this was among the more desperate moves the Allied forces made. How could one choose such a tiny vehicle to lead a convoy on roads laced with mines? While not common, they reflect the creativity and risks taken in desperate situations. Though these mine-detecting Jeeps were never mass-produced or widely deployed, they sometimes saved lives by detecting threats ahead of the main convoy. They were sacrificial scouts, rolling ahead so others could live. The Flamethrower Jeep. Few battlefield weapons stirred fear like fire, and US Marines knew that well in the Pacific Theater. So, they turned their Jeeps into flame-spitting war machines. In the Pacific, where Japanese bunkers and caves were dug deep and thick, traditional guns weren't enough. So Marines mounted M2 flamethrowers on Jeeps. Modified with M2 flamethrowers and pressurized fuel tanks, they could spit fire 40 meters ahead. Operators used them to clear tunnels, caves, and bunkers on islands like Iwo Jima, Saipan, and Okinawa. The Flamethrower Jeep wasn't just a weapon, it was psychological warfare, forcing enemy soldiers to surrender rather than burn. It wasn't just a weapon, it was fear on wheels. These weren't just Jeeps, they were experiments, innovations, and sometimes miracles on wheels. Which one shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more forgotten tech from the past. This is Invents KE, your channel for history linked with technology. I am your host Jeseremi Augustine.